Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Today, we begin a new director spotlight with Christopher Nolan, and we begin it with The Prestige. This movie was released on October 20th, 2006. Written by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan. Directed by Christopher Nolan. I am Colton Robertson. I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. I was particularly excited for today. You know, we're fresh off Wes. You know, we're fresh off Wes Anderson. We did his entire filmography in anticipation of Asteroid City. And now we're doing Christopher Nolan. We're doing a little Christopher Nolan in anticipation of Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a noted Wes. I would call myself a Wes Anderson fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
for sure. I'm right there with you.
I can't say the same about Christopher Nolan. I enjoy his work. I respect his work, but I'm not like, oh, if he's doing something, it's a guarantee that I'm going to watch it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll let it sit. I'll let it pass. And that's what's fun about this slate of movies we got. We got The Prestige, Dunkirk, and Tenet in anticipation of Oppenheimer, none of which I have seen.
Oh yeah. Very rare. In any of these projects that we do, for you to not see something in me I believe I have seen, I know I've seen The Prestige, obviously, this one I have, and Tenet I have seen one time.
Gotcha.
Dunkirk, I think that one, I don't actually know. I think,
Gotcha.
No, I think I'm confusing it with a DiCaprio movie, Revenant maybe, when he's in the, fighting a bear or something in the woods. I remember watching that, but falling asleep, and I thought that it was Dunkirk.
Interesting. Dunkirk's like a full-blown war movie.
Then no. So I have not seen that one either. So that'll be a first watch for both of us. But
cool.
But the other two,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I haven't seen any of these. This was the first watch I had for The Prestige. You'd been hyping it up for me, and I was very excited, and it lived up to that hype. You know, I had a great time. You know, the Nolan work that I am familiar with, the Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar, Inception.
Yeah.
Pretty sure those are the only 5 Christopher Nolan movies I'd seen prior to this. And of those, I would say he was like 2.5 out of 5 for me. You know, I was like,
it's hit or miss. Yeah, it's like
it's ultimately solid. I mean, they're all well made. None of them are like, oh, this is objectively bad. It's just a matter of whether or not it's resonating with me. This for sure makes it 3 out of 6 at the very minimum. You know, like I adore this movie, and I like Batman Begins, so probably 4 out of 6. But
it's very interesting with Nolan because you're right in saying that everything he does make, it's well made. Like he knows around a camera, and he knows he has a very good. Are they brothers? Actually, like siblings?
Jonathan and Christopher Nolan, yes.
As a genius writer on his side, usually most of the time. But like a movie like Inception, whenever we covered it, I think we both went into it like, yeah, all right, this movie, we know it's great and it's renowned as fantastic, but we both kind of came out of it like, I don't know, like it's like it was okay, it just didn't really resonate.
It was solid, it was well made. I'll never watch it again though. This is not one of those movies. I will almost certainly watch The Prestige again, if for nothing else than to get the payoffs, you know, like there's these are spoiler ass episodes. You know, if you have not seen The Prestige and you'd like to, you probably shouldn't listen to this. If you have seen The Prestige or then this is for you, you know, because there's a massive twist ending that is very, very satisfying, and I can only imagine on rewatching it's all the more satisfying. A twist ending that I will braggadociously say I was watching it going, okay, so this is this. What's going to be the thing? And then those were the things, and I was like, okay, cool, okay. So I got it for the most part. I loved. There's something about Jonathan Nolan's writing that, you know, once you've seen Westworld, you can kind of prepare for anything with Jonathan Nolan. The 10 hours of misdirection and build up and clues. You start something that's 2 hours. I got that in the bag compared to the 10-hour content of Westworld.
That's true. That's having the prerequisite of Westworld before viewing this movie. That helps a whole lot. Because
Westworld season 1 anyway.
I was. I can't remember when exactly the first time I watched this movie was. I feel like it might have been in school. One teacher might have showed it. I'm not sure, but I know it was around high school time. I would say for sure that I saw this. Definitely pre-Westworld for me. Yeah. And whenever I first watched it, I mean, I think I might have been like, oh, they're you know, maybe
there's
like
so much dialogue.
They bring it up. They're like, I think even Alfred, but not actual Alfred, Michael Caine. You know, in this movie. It's going to be real confusing. You know, whenever I think of this movie, I always think it's Batman and Wolverine against each other, but they're magicians. Yeah. And then also, but Wolverine has Alfred this time. And then also, I guess you got Black Widow.
I was going to say Black Widow's there.
Yeah, it's like just a whole mashup here.
And Maya Hansen from Iron Man 3 is Alfred's wife. She's the chick who hooks up with Tony Stark and then works for his enemy in Iron Man 3. So like there's a ton of there's a ton of superhero movie crossover here.
Okay. Wow, I didn't even pick up on that one. But I remember the first time I watched it, I was, you know, like they even say it like they're like, oh, it has to be a double. I don't know any other way it could be done if there's not a double. It just has to be. Like they make it seem that like, yeah, it's that way, so that you're thinking like, well, is it or is it not? You're like, it is that simple. Like, could it be or could it not? You're always this back and forth.
Well, there's this thing that they do with this movie that is really, really well done, where they leave you with that questioning where you, like, I was of the mind, there came a point where I didn't figure out that Alfred and Fallon were two different guys who looked exactly the same until closer to the end of the movie.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't like straight off the rip. Like I'd had the thought early on in the movie where I was like, Fallon kind of like they're being shifty with Fallon. You know, I was like, maybe that's, he looks like Christian Bale every time I do see him with like a little bit of like a padded face. And I was like, so maybe there's something there. I'll come back around to it. And then eventually I committed to it. It was like, that's got to be the case. But they had me going from the Great Denton's perspective. I can't remember his real name, quote unquote. Angier, that's right.
Angier.
Yeah, Angier. They had me going. I thought that his obsession was founded, and it's just his deep-rooted insecurities. You know, he thinks this guy's better than him. He knows he's better than him. He's got to prove why he's better than him. He's like, if he's better than me, there's got to be a reason. You know,
and there's multiple layers to this movie for me. Like I'm a Tesla nerd.
Right, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla, and having just David Bowie.
David fucking Bowie, baby.
That's just amazing to have. But this movie, if you look at it through the lens of like the time that they're in and what's going on, it's very, very closely related to the race that Edison and Tesla had back whenever they were first inventing electricity, basically.
Right.
And unveiling it to the world. And it was always known that Tesla, he was a horrible businessman. He could not present his ideas to the public whatsoever. but he was the one that was actually coming up with all of the groundbreaking science and everything behind it.
Right.
And Edison, being the businessman, the good showman, he would take it and spin it in a way, or do something of the sort. And it was always a back and forth they had. So me knowing that story, and I love that story to death. Like actual history, I guess it is real. Seeing it play out in a movie with magicians and showmans, it works if you don't know that story at all. If you don't even know about Tesla.
That's paralleling in the background all the while. The spies, Edison. There are people working for Edison that are staying at the hotel and stuff. And I was vaguely familiar with that story. I don't know the intricacies of it, but I've always known the controversies of Edison's validity as the father of electricity and stuff.
He would literally take he would say, all right, I'm going to show you Tesla's electricity. It was alternating current and direct current. That was the big war. Right. Tesla's alternating. But Edison would say, I'm going to use alternating current to show you how dangerous it is. And I'm going to kill all these animals with it and show you how fast they die because of this alternating current. And what it turned out to be the whole time is he was using his own direct current to kill these animals, because if you want to kill someone with electricity, that's how you do it. So he basically had a smear campaign for Tesla and trying to up his stuff at the same time, just business. It was business for Edison. And I think it parallels perfectly with this story. Like, you have Alfred Borden, the guy the true magician here, the guy who is sacrificing everything, for his
everything.
And I love the constant, they always think they have the one up on each other. Always. They both think they're a step ahead every time, and then Angier's his whole thing at the end, he's like, well, the reason he's done it, and his obsession, is seeing the look of people's faces when they're actually fooled. He's like, that's what it's all about. I gotta be the man up on the stage. I gotta see their faces, whenever I was actually fooling them, showing them real magic. And he would stop at nothing to get there. But then you realize, Alfred the whole time was just, slowly trying to make his way, just wasn't having much success. Dude just wasn't a good showman, really, at all, until Scarlett Johansson came up in there and was like, hey, let me show you how the fuck to do this.
Let me show you how to do this shit,
you
bro.
You are failing pretty hard.
Yeah.
But,
when he's, at the beginning, when he's just in that, rinky-dink, pub magician, he's, got the circles, and everyone's like, boo, get off the fucking stage.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I'm just doing this is what you're here for? He points the gun at everybody. I love that scene. That was one of my favorites. But back to Tesla for a second, because David Bowie, I adore David Bowie. There's also, I love David Bowie's music. I think he's a fantastic artist, a visionary in every regard. But one of my favorite lines in this movie, and might be my favorite line of the movie, is an extremely meta moment coming from David Bowie, where he says, society only tolerates one change at the time. First time I tried to change the world, I was hailed as a visionary. Second time, I was asked politely to retire. So here I am, enjoying my retirement. Acting in a Christopher Nolan movie, David Bowie, who's past his prime in music, being so here I am, enjoying my retirement. I was like, that's
so many ways. That's the thing, is that what's happening in the movie, it works on so many different levels. David Bowie, just for his life, and then also the character he's playing. He's like, Tesla legit, he brought electricity to everyone, and he was like, well, I got more in the tank. I got way more to do and to show you guys. The government was like, well, maybe you slow down a little bit,
right.
Let's make some money off this. And in real life, this is very true. And he's at the end of his life, after all of his discoveries, all of his patents that he had, they were all burnt down, like his compound was here. And it was a constant, he was always on the run and everything like that. And just, I don't know, a perfect stand, David Bowie, he could have been anybody, to play Tesla, really.
One of the most inspired castings I've ever seen.
Was perfect. There's just everything about it just plays so well. And that, me being the nerd I am about this stuff, I I find it hard to focus on like any other part of the movie whenever Tesla's like coming up and like they're we got to go to Colorado Springs, we got to see what's up, and he's like in his compound with Andy Serkis as well as his assistant. So it's like, oh my god, like everyone in here is just amazing. But like I think, I mean, he might be my character. Like the only reason he'd be my character is because it's like that's the part of the movie I really like. I just love the actual history of it and stuff like that. But for the movie itself, he's such a small role that like it'd really be hard to actually give him the character nod. It was just because of how perfect he fits this role.
Oh yeah, it's kind of incredible. And that's the thing though, is that like when you're looking at this movie, I don't particularly like Angiers or
Either
Alfred.
Yeah, like
I'm not. Cutter might be up there. You know, I like Michael Caine's performance, and you know he's a bit extreme. You know, you gotta be willing to do some dark shit in this business. You know, like that's so. Like, I'm not the only other person who's in like the main cast that I would have ever even considered was fucking what's her name? Rebecca Hall. Yeah, Rebecca Hall is Sarah. Like, if I'm going from a pure likability standpoint, like she's far and away the most likable character in this movie, along with, I would say, Nikola Tesla. You know, like that'd be the only other person who I would say is like the truly likable, because, you know, I think I'm ultimately gonna go with Christian Bale as specifically Fallon.
Yeah.
For my character choice. Because I love this premise that like, well, and like I'm calling him Fallon. I guess there's no real way to tell which one's who originally.
The one who loved Sarah, you know, like that's like, right. Cause Fallon loved Sarah. Alfred, at least it is tough to know which
I took it the opposite way. I took it Alfred loved Sarah, Fallon loved Scarlett Johansson.
I thought he literally when he's talking at the end to Angier, that he literally says, he's like, yeah, no, we lived a double life. Like I loved Sarah, he loved Olivia, I thought.
Yeah. And the one who dies is Fallon, I thought.
Oh, okay. I guess I've never
I thought that Alfred's the one who lives.
Oh, wait a minute. Because the only thing that gets me is how, like, whenever his daughter's there and he's in the cell, he's like, I love you, you know, like so much, and he's like so attached to her. So it makes sense to kind of think like I don't know. I guess I'm always back and forth on who's
no,
who
that makes sense
and whatever, because they could be like he could be lying to Angier, or like it could be part of the show at the end there, but like,
well, and I've taken it that like I'm at a spot where it even occurred to me that they probably don't actually know which one of them is the father to that child.
Yeah.
You know, like they both love that child like it's their own.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, is that even if it is Alfred in the cell who gets hanged and dies, and not O'Fallon, say it is Alfred, like he would still love that daughter as if it was her own, because they had to literally like they were both filling that role the whole time. And I feel you know it's either his daughter or his niece, you know, either way. So it's like, it's not like, I don't know, they're going to both feel for that little girl no matter what. But I think it comes down to how they die. Oh no, you're right. No, yeah. Well, because he gets hanged, Alfred or O'Fallon, whichever one it is.
Yeah, because I don't think because he straight up says we were both Alfred and we were both O'Fallon. So like that's the other thing, is that I don't think it necessarily matters, you know.
Because the end there, like he didn't need any Tesla magic box to do his transported man. He did it at the end only for Angier. Like that was his teleported or transported man whenever whoever gets hanged in prison is there, and then he's out, with here and telling him how he played him and everything. But every time someone died, like either, I guess, I don't know, whoever it was who died in prison, they get hanged. Sarah also hung herself.
Yes.
Like they die in the same way. Also, Angier, the clone, whoever, always drowns, just like
just like
Jess,
Piper.
Was it?
I think it was Piper.
Maybe, or Julia.
Oh, the actress's name is Piper.
Yeah, that's the actress.
Yeah, Julia McCullough. Yeah, I've been looking at the IMDb so heavily that I merged those names.
Yeah.
She
so
Piper.
The deaths are always, like the same, and like
mirroring the person they loved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that would make sense. That my thing is that, like, in my head, I think that, I came to the conclusion in my head that the one who loved Sarah was the father of the child, like the straight up father of the child, and therein I went with that to be Alfred. And Fallon decided it was okay for him to die as long as the daughter had her father. Like that. And that's why whichever one sacrificed himself and got hanged, that's my favorite character. Yeah. I'm like, that's some G shit.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. He apologizes. He says, "I'm sorry for Sarah. I never meant to hurt her." In the cell, as he's walking away to go get hanged. So he was like, "I'm sorry."
That's Fallon. That's Fallon.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. So I'm going with like the one who loved Sarah is Alfred. The one who loved I can never remember Scarlett Johansson's character's name.
Olivia.
Whoever loved Olivia was Fallon. That's how I've gone about it in my head. Even though technically Alfred loved them both. So like but to separate them, I'm going like I gotta call one of them something and the other something else. That's just got to be the way.
And I don't know, just they're teasing it the whole time with that one guy who has the fishbowl between his legs and puts it up. It's the whole. That's his act. He's still acting. He never stops.
His whole life.
And
he's like, how did he pick it? How did he get that so fast? Like what did he see that I didn't? And it's like, because he's dedicated his entire life to something like that.
Yeah, he's doing it already. And that, like, that's the crazy thing is that, like, where's his brother been hiding, like, this whole time? Or like, did they just know, like, have they just always been doing this? I wonder when it started, like, whenever.
Yeah, right.
Like, they actually decide, I don't know, to start this all, but like, that doesn't matter, just semantics there. But like,
no, but like, it is a question like worth contemplating. It's like, how long have they been doing this?
Yeah, like, because you would think if you're friends with someone and like you're working with them on a show, you would know if they had a brother, or like a sibling, especially a twin brother. Like, so he'd have to have been keeping it hidden for quite some, like, for
a long fucking time
before he met.
They do question, where's he even from? And like he's a mystery in these parts. Like he kind of shows up and then he so I'm assuming he moved far away. It is the early 1900s and late 1800s. There's no way to like verify, that.
Wait a minute. Maybe they're not twins. Maybe one's a clone. And he got to test, like, because he's, like, Tesla, that was the 5-letter, whether that was an actual rabbit hole he just sent Angier down, what made that machine? And he said, I've made it for someone before. He did say
and he also said that this is the key to my secret.
Yeah.
This is the key to my trick.
So, I mean, maybe he's not actually.
Yeah, like you came in here confidently talking about how he was a twin. I don't like that was never outwardly said, right?
No, I don't. I think it was by Angier.
Angier's like, how?
Died, like a brother, a twin, but he doesn't really give a straight answer.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I think there's still again, similar to Westworld, there's still like questions. There's still like, oh God, but how did this even, like, how did this happen? Like, I know that this is how you've lived your life, but how'd you start? How did it get like this? Like, I don't get that
It
part.
makes more sense if he walked in the machine himself and, he saw a clone of himself and he's like, do you have all, who's who? And they freak the fuck out and he's like, all right, we're destroying this machine. Maybe like they actually destroyed it. They're like,
well, and I think that I think it works a lot better for him to have been a clone. Because it again shows a contrast between the characters of Danton and between Angiers and Alfred. As soon as he kills every single clone, there can't be another one of him. He's not willing to share that spotlight. It goes back to him being like, why does he get to be on the stage and I have to accept bows beneath it? Like why do I have to take that? It's because he doesn't want to share a life. And he shouldn't want to share a life, like that's not something you should probably want to do.
That's a weird question to be, because even he was like, I didn't know if I was going to be the one down in the box or the one up above.
And I don't think there's any way for him to know ever.
Yeah. I think it's like, and I mean, that's, we're getting into the actual, like that's magic that there's, like cloning and stuff like, but every other part of the movie is pretty real. Like it's pretty not out there. And like even whenever they're getting into clones and stuff, it's still like kind of like, oh, well, yeah, this is a machine. It gets real spinny fast, a lot of sparks, clone make. It's like it's not that complicated. I'd say the most complicated part of the movie is just all the time jumps going bing, 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 just back and forth through the timeline. And having things slowly revealed over time and then finally,
and that was an interesting storytelling method that it's very Jonathan Nolan of him to do this. If you've seen Westworld, you are in Westworld, you don't even know you're taking time jumps. You can speculate that. But here, you're taking time jumps and it's all just sort of, that's an incredibly difficult way to write a story.
Yeah.
Do you know how impressive this movie's writing is for it to be so non-linear time-wise and it come together as satisfyingly as it does and tell a relatively linear story? It's not like it's
like you see Angier or one of his clones die in a tank below the stage at the very like is that like not the opening, but like pretty like might be.
No, that's I think that's the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and then it doesn't really show him trying to break him out or anything. It just kind of
it just shows him. Yeah, it just shows him struggling.
Yeah.
And then I think it shows Cutter walk in and go, "What are you doing?" And then they don't, I think there was blatant misdirection with that part. Like I think they did the scene differently at the beginning compared to what it is at the end, if I'm not mistaken. But
what a perfect way to frame him, though.
Oh yeah.
Like Angier, he knows, like, because that's why he has all the blind people, and he doesn't let Cutter. Yeah, doesn't let Cutter backstage.
Yeah, as soon as he was like, "You stay," like I was like, "Okay, now I get it. Now I know what he's doing here."
He's like, "Well, the world wouldn't. They would. It's the bird in the cage. It's like." That they, at the very beginning they have that trick, and that's how he explained. The every trick involves 3 stages, or I love his monologues as he's just like
every trick involves 3 stages.
Oh, well, what a I don't know, just everyone like having Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie,
Rebecca Hall I think Rebecca Hall is extremely underrated. I love that actress.
Performance wise, like. I really, really like Hugh Jackman, even though I hate his character, and he's so like he should be everything I hate about it. But like I just love how he's such a showman. Like I don't know, he's
so fucking good, man.
He's so good at what he does. Having to play his double, the drunk, just the drunk fool, like was awesome. But then
like the slight makeup changes they were putting on him and stuff. Like it's incredibly believable to the point where I was like, is there any chance this is someone who looks a lot like Hugh Jackman?
Actually, Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I'm fairly certain it was.
Are you paying attention? Are you?
Are you watching closely? That's a contender. That's a contender for me line wise. Because when he said that at the end. That's like we talked about this with Asteroid City. There's like a moment where you're like, this is where it's going. This is when it happens. You know, this is what it's all been building towards. It's finally fucking time. And then he goes, "Are you watching closely?" And I was like, "No, this is it." You know.
And the prison guard's like, "Oh fuck!" He's like, "He's gonna do something here. How's he gonna get out of these?" Like, "Oh god!" I wonder if that was the same prison guard that he put like the ankle shackle on, the little trick he played. You know, like watching the ball, throwing it up, and then he locks his leg on, has a big laugh. I wonder if that was the same prison guard, or if it's just every prison guard in there was just afraid of this man because they had no idea what he was capable of. Like, but I loved his last word right before he goes, just abracadabra. Yeah, it was like, because he knows like he won't ever get to see it, at all. But he knows that
prestige.
He knows
it happened.
Prestige is, it's like what Angier just did to him, and how he put him in prison, how he mind fucked him. He's doing the same thing right back to him, but like 10 times greater. The thing that's been taking this whole, their whole lives to do. And it actually, one of them needs to die, in order for that to happen.
It ended the only way that could have ended. You can't just all of a sudden go, "Oh, actually, we're the same guy." Like that's just not how things work. But yeah, there's a few lines that just like very, again, I credit Jonathan Nolan with most of the writing because of Westworld. The way that this is written so similarly to Westworld makes me think Jonathan Nolan had a very, very heavy hand in the writing process here. The way that lines take on so many double meanings and like sort of callbacks and all that. Like whenever at the beginning, whenever she's like, "I can tell when you mean it and when you don't." And immediately I immediately went, that doesn't even compute for me. Like at the beginning, I was like, that's not something that happens to people. I don't think.
How it works.
And slowly over the course of the movie, I was like, because at the beginning she goes, "It makes it mean so much more when you mean it." And then at the end she goes, "It makes it hurt so much more when you don't."
Yep.
And it's a good example of this is going to be a little bit of a mindfuck for the listeners here, but the Batman Begins episode that's coming out in a few weeks, we recorded yesterday. And I talked about the lines in Christopher Nolan movies that kind of clue you in to where your characters are in an act. At the beginning, that's what she feels. It makes it mean so much more when you mean it. Like, I'm in this, I love you. I know that some days you don't love me, but that makes the days you do so much sweeter. By the end, she's like, "This fucking sucks." I'm done, basically. And that shit hurt, like she had one of the more tragic and saddening arcs in this movie, of course. But all things considered, I think the line I'm actually going to end up landing on, because I didn't even think of it as a double meaning until I was looking back through the quotes for the movie, was "The secret impresses no one. The trick you use it for is everything."
Yeah, exactly. That's like
it's his entire life.
Yeah, like and when he first had the transported man, his first little showing of it through the bounce of the ball coming out the door, like everyone just was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, they didn't even realize what happened there. Like he didn't play it up enough, or he didn't do enough to actually like build the suspense enough for people to think it was amazing what just happened. It happened so fast that everyone was just like, "Oh." Like, yeah, okay. And like it was kind of an awkward
applause,
like awkward clap. And also in front of like no one as well. There's like barely anyone there.
Right.
And this is supposed to be his magnum opus, or
I'm thinking deeper into the movie now about Fallon and his introduction into the movie. Do you think the time jumps are there so you don't know when Fallon starts existing? Because he's in the first scene in the movie close to the first scene in the movie at the courthouse. So you just kind of go, he's been here since the beginning. But is there a chance that he wasn't doing the transporter man until Fallon existed?
Oh. You're right, because he was doing the show with Angier up on this, helping. What was her name again? Yeah, Julia, tying her up, and having her go down in there.
Yeah,
and and then after that first show, he was like, I have my trick. He's like, I've been working on it. It's finally ready. Like it's ready. I can do it now.
And that comes after Angier has seen him at Tesla's little display. Notably, O'Fallon's not there with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think there comes a point in the movie where timeline wise, Fallon starts existing if it's linear, which makes the reason they formatted it this way much more cohesive.
Yeah, because it would have been
obvious.
Yeah, if like, oh, there's another one all of a sudden, they'd have to be like, yeah, he made all of his tricks and stuff on his own before, but then he needed some help, so we called someone in, and or whatever the name of that job is, that cutter, and then
I can't remember.
Something French, it sounds like. But yeah, that would be a little too obvious if it was just all linear completely.
Yeah. No, I think that's 100% the case, and that he is definitely a clone.
Oh, how did I never even? I just was like, yeah, they're twins, and somehow I guess he just hid his brother all along in their life. I can't believe it's never crossed my mind that like, oh, well, there's literal clones in the, Angier.
Now I'm thinking even deeper into it, because like if we saw a linear cut of this movie, what would that look like? And I don't mean I don't think it would be better by any means. I think they did the right thing here, but I'm interested to see, that would make the line I pointed to a little bit ago. It means so much more when you mean it. That kind of falls apart then, because it implies that it's been happening for a really long time. Or at least since he moved there and they met,
Well, he met Sarah doing that in that little, whenever he performed the actual Transported Man for the first time. Like, that's where they met. Whenever he, was
that what trick he performed? I thought that was the
ring,
cage collapsing on the bird, and the kid was like,
"Oh no, that's
you
right.
killed it. He killed the bird."
Yeah, so that was okay. So there's two separate shows then that he did. That one he did. Because the bar, the one with the bar, that was the bullet catch. He didn't do the Transported Man.
And the bullet catch, they make a point to show us that the guy had existed by then. They make a point to show that Fallon exists by then, because he has to cut off his fingers. So I think my little theory there fell apart. I don't think it.
Well, not quite. I don't think, because it makes sense that he would have to be there for the bullet catch and everything. They meet. Maybe when they meet, he might do the first Transported Man there. I don't know, because he does kill the bird, and then he walks up to the little.
Yeah, and he's like, he's fine. You're the lucky one today.
I guess that was just her.
Just evaporated from the
nephew.
movie. Nephew.
It wasn't actually her son or anything, but yeah, I wonder when Fallon or the other clone or the first clone was made.
Yeah, I'm curious how that. I would need to rewatch the movie to be able to be like, okay, I don't think he exists here, and I do think he does at this point, because I'd be so interested in what a linear version of the story would be, because
it seems that Sarah and Alfred had a pretty good love story at the beginning there. Like, it didn't seem anything was going wrong. When was the first time that she was like, oh, no, you don't mean it like this time? Like,
I can't remember specifically what was going on. I want to say it was
in her apartment, I think.
I think it's after she's dressing his wound. She's like, how did this even happen again? Like, why is it still bleeding? And it's because he had to cut the fucking fingers off. I think that's the first time it happens. It's the first time I can remember it happening anyway.
Because I'm pretty sure the bullet catch, is that before or after the first time he does the transported man?
That's before, because he's in the rinky-dink little... I think the first time he performs the transported man, he's on like a stage. Like it's
and he has... His fingers are off when he does the first... That's right.
Yeah,
okay,
because that's what makes them know he doesn't have a double. That the person has lost 2 of their fingers.
Okay, yeah, wow. I don't know, I was trying to pay attention for all these things, but I can't believe it's never crossed my mind that he could be a clone. And like when that happens is very interesting, because he does say, yeah, I've done this machine once before I've worked with a lot of crazy people, and a lot of or whatever. And
well, what's funny is it didn't even occur to me that he could be a clone or his brother. I thought he was just some fucking guy like Hugh Jackman's character met. I was just like,
that's true.
Which is also a possibility. I don't think that's the case. They look too identical. You know what I'm saying? Like they are either twins or clones. There's too much of a resemblance in the face to like, and I know it's obviously Hugh Jackman there in the bar, but even then they were dressing his face up to make it look different a little bit.
Wow, there's still more to this movie, huh? I thought I had it all, and I was just paying attention for this. I was watching it through kind of like the electricity lens this time, and noticing all the similarities between Edison and Tesla. But now I'm definitely going to be watching back to. That's the question that I'll be one answered now is when
does Fallon start existing? Because I don't really know. And another interesting thing to me is Cutter. Is it just a general empathy that leads him to take care of his daughter for a little bit?
I think it was Angier. Obviously, like Cutter wasn't in the know that he was doing all of this just to get back at Alfred and Fallon, I guess. But like, and then once he finds out, like, and he's there delivering the box back to him or whatever, and he finds out, oh my God, you're still fucking alive. You lied to me, you piece of shit. Oh, now I see why you did it. You're terrible. Like that is like you're terrible. And I think from that point on, he truly hates Angier, like because at the end there when he leaves, he's like, remember when I told you that drowning, how it felt like it was like you're going home.
I
lied.
Like,
I lied. It's agony. Like he said that just to make him comfortable because of how Julia died. Yeah, and then now he's like, fuck it.
Yeah, every night whenever you doom a clone to their death. Yeah, you go through fucking hell, buddy.
And then like he at one point he does say, I think it wasn't to Cutter, it was to, I believe, Olivia, Scarlett Johansson. He's like, I don't care about my wife, I care about the trick, or like I care about the secret. He was so just obsessed with the show and with the trick and everything that it was just like, he was.
That's the thing, is that it's all connected. The reason he cares so much about the trick is because he cared so much about his wife. Like that's
he wanted Alfred to lose something equivalent. He wanted, but
my wife for a couple of his fingers. Nah, we're far from even. One of the key important like small scenes is like right after Julia's death for me, where he's sitting there with his head in a bucket of water and like border on drowns himself. So like whenever it comes time when he's like just gonna kill my clones by drowning them, it's some sort like, if it is him, he wants to go out the same way as Julia and be with her, and it's just it's a real
punishing himself a little bit, but also like I mean it is a whole, like, I wonder, because he shot the first clone, he's like, I'll have this here just in case anything goes bad, and he's like, well, fuck, all right, gotta do it. And he's like, well, I don't want to do that every time, because that's just a little messy, and you don't want to shoot yourself, every time. So, I mean, this, I guess, is, like, how else would you really do it, though? you know, like it's perfect. Just drop through a trap door.
No, it's
no lock, no key, no anything, and
yep.
2 minutes later, and that's it. But like, I don't think it's a coincidence that that's how his wife goes. So it's how he's having
100%
every time too.
The same tank too.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's and the whole frame job that happened there. Like you switch the lock, you put a real lock on there, and it's like no, that Angier did that. He's like he wants to make sure his clone doesn't get out like that's the weird thing is like he kept them. He kept them though. Like they were at the end there, they were in the tanks.
Yeah,
it was multiple tanks, and he kept them, which is really really interesting. And like maybe I'm mixing up Edison with Ben Franklin. No, that was Ben Franklin. Never mind. I thought that maybe they were trying to do some weird history thing that lined up because like I think it was Ben Franklin. I don't think it was Edison. But he like ended up coming over to America. They went back to his old house and they found like 10 bodies in the basement or something like that. Something really weird.
Jesus Christ. I did not know that.
But yeah, I think it's Franklin because I'm pretty sure it's like someone was like, how did this person end up on the $100 bill or something like that? Like this person is still on our $100 bill. And like, those like 10 or 12 bodies or so, 5 or 6 of them were confirmed children as well. So yeah, I don't think it's Edison. I'm pretty sure it's Franklin. So completely unrelated.
I'm going to look into this right this fucking second.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Ben Franklin, he, bodies in basement, and it was like a room that was like a room with no windows, no anything past his basement though, and just like 12 bodies. Like under there.
Repairs on Franklin's old London house turned up 1,200 pieces of bones from at least 15 people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
So, all these like the only reason I thought it could be Edison is because he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. That he did not really stop at anything to make sure his stuff wasn't on top. And that's just part of why I love this movie so much. Is it's kind of like a little love letter to Tesla a little bit, to be like, thank you for all of this electricity stuff. Like at the field with the lights, like no wires, like the real magic. Like Tesla even fooled the magicians. They were like, "Oh my god, like okay, this is real. Like there's no wires here. Like what the fuck's going on?" And like the thing is that who knows what the actual Tesla in real life actually did. Like there's so much of his work that's lost, just gone forever.
Right.
And he, it's only by stories. There's no documentation of anything, but like only by word of mouth, and people have said that he demonstrated like a bunch of lights in a field, turning them on with no wires, and like actually holding them himself. Like that, like it's crazy that all of these things could be real, actually. But
yeah, that was my favorite shot in the movie. Whenever the field of lights lit up around Angier's and Allie, it's like right when they come on, and they like kind of look around for a second. It's fucking gorgeous. There's something about
having the whole city go dark
slowly,
and then all the rest of the lights slowly come up in the background. That was a nice shot. Yeah, okay.
I liked that a lot. That was my favorite. And there was a lot of contenders for me because this was a pretty fucking movie. And I texted you about that last night. I think that when it comes to like Inception and Interstellar and Dark Knight and Batman movies at large, and Tenet, it makes sense that these movies have a cold, gray, black, white aesthetic. Like it does generally make sense. I get why those movies are colored that way. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, these giant vibrant hues are coming out of Inception. Like, no, that's like, I get it. I do. But it also leads to me not loving the way a lot of his movies look. And it's not that I need like color. I need something to look. It's that I need it to have a palette, like be pleasing to the eye.
Realism isn't always the best.
No. And this is far from realist, and that's why I think this movie works so fucking well. There's these multiple moments, like the use of like these rich, like mahogany browns and like reddish browns was fucking gorgeous throughout the film. Like the warm scenes whenever it was like yellow, orange, red, and then there were other scenes where it was like green, blue, white, and like it all just kind of came together in a really satisfying way. Like there's a moment earlier in the movie when he's walking, Angiers is walking through like a snow and fog addled wood, and it's like you can barely see anything. It's so hazy, but you can see him plainly in his like brown jacket and brown top hat, and it's like that looks so fucking good, that was something that I think Interstellar is a brilliant looking movie, and I think Inception is a brilliant looking movie, and it's in part because of visual effects, but
they're
like well
shot. Like you are wowed by what you're seeing.
They're visual experiences. Like you're supposed to be
black hole. You're like, okay, that's fucking nuts. Or when you see
the fucking fourth dimension and stuff, you see
on itself. It's
exactly.
like okay, like that's
you look at that and you go, whoa. I'm looking at this and I go, damn. Like that looks pretty.
Standing in the middle of a winter scene, that's not a black hole. That's not London folding in half.
It's not the fourth dimension.
Yeah, no. But I mean, my shot. I'm coming off as a real Tesla fanboy here, but it's just whenever David Bowie's introduced and he's walking through that field of electricity, just like it's nothing, he's just walking through. I mean, that's the thing is that like that's real. Like that part is actually real. Tesla commonly just sat there. That's where he found peace, was in this electricity field, because he knew no one else other than his like assist or anyone else that was in the know is not going to come up and walk in there. And that's because it looks very dangerous. But like him actually lighting light bulbs by himself, like that's real. That is very real, and anyone can actually do this. Like it's not. If you stand there for long enough, you will have enough electricity in your body to actually light up a light bulb. Like, we have electricity flowing through us right now, actually, to make all of our muscles move. It's like it's very real. So like the science nerd of me is loving.
I'm curious. Is there since I'm not a big science guy or anything, and I trust you to know better than me. This technology, is there any chance this was practical?
The fields and the lights and stuff like that, they actually wired them up. Like that's the thing is that there's actually wires under the ground and like slots that every light goes in. But it's very practical. You can do this, like a Tesla coil. You can build one.
Yeah, no, I've seen something like this. I was curious if you know anything about the production of this movie.
Oh no, I would just almost guarantee there's no actual sparks whatsoever. Because like just it is safe to a certain degree, but for a movie set, no shot they would actually like be doing that. I wouldn't think. Okay. But no, very very real machine that can, and many people actually make like in their backyards. We even have some that just play music. Like they can play like music sometimes with electricity and stuff like that, but yeah, as far as the actual production, I wouldn't know. But I could almost 99% sure there's probably no actual sparks there.
Okay, cool. I was just curious because I was like, I know this is like a real thing we can do. I'm curious if they did it. Because Christopher Nolan, that's his whole fucking bag. He loves doing shit like that.
You know what? Maybe whenever David Bowie's walking through, I'd say probably not there. Like actually having a person walking.
Right.
But maybe whenever it was on display and just actually like shooting, maybe they had the room empty and then just had it like, another layered it on top of each other. I could see maybe that.
Okay, cool.
But if there's anyone walking through it and like the electricity,
I'm looking at the trivia and I assume that would be pretty high on the trivia, and I'm not seeing anything like that. But there's some interesting little factoids here. The editing includes 146 time jump cuts.
Yeah. Wow.
It averages to almost one timeline jump per minute of the movie.
That's a lot of time jumps.
Yeah.
A whole lot of that's more than that's way more than I thought.
Yeah,
Actually.
way more than I thought too.
Maybe there are some time jumps that you don't even know are time jumps sometimes. Maybe a little Westworld-like, but I feel like most of them were pretty known. Like
They're pretty, like there was never a point where I was like, "Whoa, where are we now?" I was just kind of like, it all kind of made sense, you know. There was never a moment in Westworld whenever like Dolores sees herself, and you're like, "Wait a fucking minute, what's going on?" You know, like there was never anything like that. That made me kind of like trip over myself, but dude, the main character's initials spell Abra.
Mm-hmm.
Alfred Borden, Robert Angier.
Abracadabra. Are
Yeah,
you
that's
looking
hard.
close enough? Yeah, I feel like this would be a movie where like a lot of this stuff I'd be like, probably just a coincidence that I didn't even think about. But this one's probably, I mean, they probably thought about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
It being a movie about magic and deceiving people and having a prestige. Whenever I think that's a lot of a very common thing I say about Nolan movies is like, man, if I could just watch this movie for the first time again, like I would be so happy. Like Interstellar, I think that's probably the number one. Like if I could have that twist and all the things that have happened, like just to not know what's coming and experience that for the first time again, I'd love. Like Star Wars, pretty obviously there.
Yeah.
Like this one,
Interstellar.
this one's up there. Like this one is.
Yeah, I mean it's worthy of that. It is.
And maybe if I could put my brain back in pre-Westworld as well.
Yeah, right.
Because that shock, whenever I first watched it, I'm like, oh, fuck. And I didn't even think he was a clone whatsoever. I was like, oh, brother, twin of somebody. You know, I guess I didn't really think about it all too much. But man, I love these twists. And
this was at one point Christopher Nolan's lowest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes at 76%. It has since been surpassed by Interstellar, 71. Yeah.
Lower?
Yeah.
Audience?
No idea. Critical? I don't know. That was just a little fun factoid there. I'm assuming you'd be shocked how many people don't like that movie.
Interstellar? I guess it is very like there's a lot of stuff you gotta know like to make it actually make sense. Like all the gravity stuff, I mean, most people probably don't give a whole lot of thought to the time dilation, all the stuff that's happening there. Like I'm
not gonna lie to you. Most of the critiques I hear are that they think that the ending is stupid. That the like love tars, like love being the key, they think that's dumb when the whole movie was so scientific. And I'm like, y'all just hate fucking movies then. I don't know, bro.
Well,
like
he says like it's us. It's us from the future. Maybe it's up in the air. You don't know who's doing all of this stuff, and love is just the easiest way to, I guess, explain it. Wow, I didn't know people didn't like the ending, but yeah. I mean, on Tomatoes, like it's the critical score that they.
It's the critical score.
But even audience-wise, The Prestige is at a 92, Interstellar at an 86.
Yeah, that's kind of shocking to me. I couldn't agree less. Because I mean I enjoyed this movie immensely, but if I'm ranking Nolan movies that I've watched, it would still be third.
Yeah, I mean Interstellar is probably in my top 2-3 movies of all time for me. So I mean I'm hard pressed to find anything better than Interstellar for me. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I didn't know that people didn't like the ending there. I thought that's like.
Oh, and then The Dark Knight is a 94 and 94 split on Rotten Tomatoes. Like that's a universally acclaimed film.
People love their Dark Knight, that's for sure.
It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating to me. I don't get me wrong. I love that movie.
Yeah,
it's a very good movie.
But as far as if I'm watching The Dark Knight or The Prestige first, that's a little closer. Interstellar and Prestige, there's a sizable gap,
there's a gap
for me. I'd say there's still a pretty decent gap for Dark Knight as well. I'd say Dark Knight is closer to The Prestige than The Dark Knight is to Interstellar.
I feel you there. That's where I'm at. But yeah, it would definitely go Interstellar, Dark Knight, The Prestige as of right now. And hopefully that gets surpassed by Dunkirk. I'm very excited for Dunkirk. I've heard wonderful things about that movie. Tenet, we'll see.
That one is very interesting.
It's gotten a lot of mixed reviews from what I've heard. It's either you love it or you fucking hate it. I actually genuinely, this isn't like nobody can be just normal about things anymore. You always either love things or you hate things. And, I don't see that in a lot of places. I see a lot of tempered takes where people are like, oh, I liked this, but I didn't like this. Tenet is not like that. Tenet is one of those movies where I've seen either, oh, this is one of my favorites of all time, or, oh God, what a fucking waste of my time.
I feel like I'm like both.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I feel like the movie hasn't clicked for me yet. I think
Right.
like on that first watch, I don't know. So basically, I mean, it will kind of be a first watch, kind of again for me.
It'll have that essence.
Dunkirk is definitely a first watch for me. So that'll be interesting, having one that we both haven't seen at all. For this one, so that'll be a whole lot of fun. But this one, I have been waiting for a while. Just because it's not like anything it's not a movie that I'm gonna be like, oh, this is one of my favorites of all time. But it's these type of movies that are my favorite. Like
I love the mind bending. Just wait a fucking minute. I need to watch this again to get it completely. Like that shit's cool. I do like that.
And Westworld is kind of like a cool comparison to make. Like, and why I probably like Westworld a lot more is because you do get a lot more time,
a lot more of it
for John Nolan here to fuck with your brain,
and you get like a completely sci-fi setting. There's that level to it too, where like there's I feel like this movie is good in spite of its period piece. I feel like there's a more enjoyable movie in this somewhere if it's set in a different time period, and that wouldn't work once you get to the Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison stuff, which is why it has to be set in this time period.
I wonder if they knew they were including that. If
it's based off a book.
Ah,
yeah,
really?
Yes.
Is it the book called The Prestige as well?
I'm not sure. I saw the credit in when I presented this at the beginning. It's a book written by Christopher Priest.
Yeah, in 1995. Okay. Yeah, I wonder if British writer. Wonder if Tesla was in. Yeah. Okay. So I just Controlled F on the Wikipedia page, and Tesla and Edison are in there. So it's not like they made it up for the movie.
No, yeah, like that's a part of the book.
But okay. That might be an interesting read. Then I wonder how similar it is, or if there are some.
Yeah, like how big of a leap there is from the source material. Could be interesting.
Maybe there's even more clues in there, like that.
Right.
Like Fallon is a clone. Maybe they actually go into that in the book, actually, but
probably.
But man, no, it's like if Westworld had to be shortened to a 2-hour movie. Like this is, I mean, that's the thing. They couldn't really do a whole lot more. Like if they try to introduce even more twists and more things, like it would have just become way too convoluted.
No, yeah, I think that I think they made about as good a movie as they possibly could have writing wise. I'm like, I do take issue at some points with like a little bit of the handling of the women in the movie. I'm like, that's, it's all right.
Scarlett Johansson kind of like says it literally, like he literally sends me to go do his, whatever. I'm in love with him. We're in love, and he sends me to go do his dirty work or whatever. And it's like kind of a.
He's just falling in love with everyone around here, and like it's just there's consistent deceiving of the women throughout the movie. I know the deceiving is of everybody, including the viewer, but like it's literally affecting directly the women in the movie. Like it's personally their problem. Their deceptions don't affect anyone else besides each other and the women they're with. Like that's it.
And I don't know if I would have liked it more. Like I think Angier is definitely kind of like the antagonist. Like, you see him more as the antagonist. Like,
right.
he's always the one kind of doing the dirty work. While Alfred, he does
He's got this really interesting fallen hero vibe, though. He was the goody at the beginning of the movie, and it makes his arc really, really compelling. And Hugh Jackman plays it just expertly. I fucking love him. So yeah, I went with him for performance as well. I think we went over all our favorites, did we not?
I think yes, other than scene. But
That's
I guess
obvious.
It's kind of impossible to choose anything other than the
There's
end.
just no other scene that actually sticks out meaningfully to me.
Yeah, no. Like, I was maybe thinking about picking Tesla's scene, but even then, it's like, I think it was just the conversation that Angier and Tesla had of being like, hey, I don't know if you truly know the cost. Like, have you actually thought about the cost of this machine?
He's like, price is no matter. And he's like, I don't give a shit about price. I'm asking about the cost.
And how, like, their obsession, like, talk about obsession, and like, yeah, I know, I can see an obsession, very clearly. I know you're obsessed. Like, I know I'm probably not going to do much. And he's like, well,
obsession is a young man's game.
Yeah. He's like, well, if you know I'm obsessed, then you're not going to change my mind. And he's like, so when can you start building? He's like, well, I've already started building the machine. I already knew it would get to this. And like, the thing about Tesla, he was a very, very obsessive man. Not just over his work, but he, like, a very weird person, that's for sure. Like, off, like, if you're just looking at him on the street and not knowing anything about him. But just, it seems that every genius that we've ever had has a little bit of quirkiness to him. You know, like, there's something a little off about these people, because, I don't know, I'm not a person that just wakes up one day and is like, electricity doesn't exist, but I'm just gonna, like, I mean, he didn't know what he was getting into, but he's like, how do you even? I don't know.
Yeah, like these basic things now that are almost necessities of life. One day someone woke up and was like, you know what, we ought to give a shot. we ought to try to figure out some way to power things, but like without.
In this time, they were probably like, man, these candles suck to carry around all the time for our light. They're like, man, we gotta light them every time they go out. You gotta fill up more whatever. And he's like,
how could I just get like some sort of fixture that just sits on my ceiling and lights up a room? How could I do that?
It's responsible for like 70 to 80% of all the technology we have now. Like, on Earth today, that man is like responsible for it all. And I wish I could have just seen his patents and all of his stuff that got burned down, but maybe that's why it got burned down. Maybe the world just wasn't quite ready. We got to take it one change.
Yeah, who knows where we would be?
Like, society, that is a good line. I don't know, like, society can only take one change or one thing at a time, and it coming from David Bowie too. I don't know, like, it was just incredible. Like, I love the Tesla parts of this movie.
No, yeah, it's fantastic, man. And like, again, just that cast: David Bowie, Andy Serkis, like the supporting around. You got Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman fronting this movie already, and you're like, oh, this is already awesome. But then you got Andy Serkis, David Bowie, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall, and all these faces just keep coming, and you're like, this is fucking incredible. No, I had a real great time with this movie, and it's going to be an interesting one to rate, as we are starting a new director. We don't have any Nolan movies to compare.
It is interesting to compare to a Wes movie because they're like,
they're so very different.
Yeah, like visually, storytelling. I mean, everything is different. The only thing that remains the same is just the quality of them. These are. They both have good quality to them. So I mean, yeah, it will be interesting to rate it here. Like, enjoyment wise, I think the time jumps kind of hinder it a little bit. Like, I think it's how the story has to be told here, but I don't know how it would be done a little differently or like.
And I'm with you. My enjoyment of this movie is I could like this movie more than I do. Like I know I can. There's plenty about this movie that it needed to be done the way it was done, but that way wasn't the most appealing. And that's just sometimes that's just how it goes, and it won't affect it critically, but it will affect it enjoyment.
Yeah, it made the ending very, very nice.
Very
and it made it unravel in a way that was very satisfying and awesome. But you got to get there first. It's like what, 2 hours and
10 minutes.
10 minutes. So I mean, it's by the end there. I mean, you're on the edge of your seat, and you're like, okay, what? We know something.
I mean, it's the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
like that's.
And
they really put that off, and they have to. There's not like a what comes next. I don't want to know what comes next. This is the point. And like I appreciate that, and it's I have mixed feelings about it, but ultimately I like it way more than I don't. Like that's ultimately it's good, not bad.
See, the lowest we've given anything for Wes is 8.5 enjoyment wise, and that is Royal Tenenbaums and Bottle Rocket.
I'd say I like this, if I'm being 100% honest on a personal note, not quite as much as either of those, but that's simply because of the way those stories resonate with me in a emotional sense. This one I don't have a lot of like this movie, it made me feel so deeply. It's just
I will really tear up whenever Sarah hangs herself. That's like that's like, oh damn.
No, that part did get me. I was like, this is just fucking sad,
But then even like when it's The Prestige, like it's not really a cry. It's more of just like a my god.
Yeah. No, there's something there, and that's why I'm like, I don't think it would be straight up. I could see myself going anywhere from an 8 to an 8.75. Like you could talk me into putting it above those movies, for me, the only reason that I immediately decided that it had to be below those movies is because I have that top 100 favorite movies ever list, and I had no compulsion to put it on there. Meanwhile, both those movies exist on there. So it's like I
was thinking around an 8 was my gut. I think, especially the lowest ones being Bottle Rocket and Royal Tenenbaums. Like I do have a lot more fun, and a lot like throughout the whole movie. Like it's like I'm enjoying the movie a lot more throughout the whole time. I think the payoff, the ending is way better. What it all came down to. Like obviously,
100%.
But enjoyment. Like I think like an 8 is actually fair. Like I mean, it's I guess low for this standard,
But 8 out of 10 is very good. Yeah.
So I mean, I was 8 was my gut where I was going initially.
All right, I'm glad to hear that, because I enjoyed this movie quite a good deal.
Yeah. And I guess most of my enjoyment actually comes from the part of the movie that isn't the movie, and the history of it. So it's like I like so there's that going for it as well. So I think it's good, and like I will come back and I will watch this again. I don't think 100%. It's ever gonna be a movie that I'm like, I'm getting bored of this. But yeah, I mean, it's not anything incredible, but definitely very good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now critically,
it's really, really well done. I think that, like I said, I think this is personally my favorite looking Christopher Nolan movie. I think it's as far as what I've seen of the 6, he's got a lot more movies, but of the 6 I've seen, I think this is my favorite to look at. I think it's incredibly performed. There's not a single performance in this movie where I'm like, they could have done better. It was banging front to back on that, in that regard. Let's see. I've always had the thought about score where like, if it doesn't stand out, that doesn't necessarily hurt it, but if it does stand out, it can enhance it. So like, I didn't really notice the score here, but that doesn't make it bad. It won't hurt it at all. I was just, it's of note. I didn't notice that
when you're expecting like even Inception, like it's not a movie I really enjoy, but it's still Hans Zimmer. It's still
it's still well done.
Still great. And Interstellar, I think, is like the gold standard of or not maybe Goldfinger, but like I noticed that soundtrack when I watched that.
That soundtrack
I'm in love
stands
with that
the fuck
soundtrack.
out. Yeah.
But yeah, this one is not. I couldn't even really hum a jingle or any.
No, I can't. I literally can't think of a single moment where the music swelled and I felt that. That was, and I know it's not fair. I did say at the beginning that like I'm a Wes Anderson fan and I wouldn't call myself that for a Christopher Nolan movie. I've been listening to the Asteroid City soundtrack a lot, and I can see the scenes in my head and I've seen that movie once. Like that's there's one of the songs on the soundtrack that when it starts, I'm like, that's my favorite part of the movie. I'm like, I can see it in my head, and I'm like, that's a moment, and I can't necessarily do that with The Prestige. I don't think, which again doesn't hurt it. It can only help it in my mind, Yeah,
because I'll be listening to the Interstellar soundtrack, and I'll be like, oh, this is this scene. And I'm thinking of the scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, now I'm like, I might actually like get emotional, and then I'm like, all right, I gotta watch the movie now. Fuck it, I gotta throw it on. I gotta watch the scene at least. So, but yeah, out of this one, it's
do not really go gently into that good night. Yeah, that shit's hard. But
I'd say everything else on this one, they're firing on all cylinders here.
It's a fucking goodie.
Are we up like 9, above or below?
9 is straight where my gut took me.
Okay. Because that would be Darjeeling, a little bit below Fantastic Mr. Fox and Moonrise, but better than Isle of Dogs, better than French Dispatch, and an 8. That's an 8.5 French Dispatch.
Yeah, and there's a reason it's an 8.5. That it's the right. It's literally the. It's similar to the thing we said about this movie. We were like, kind of the formatting. It doesn't help it a lot. But this is the opposite, where it actively does aid that conclusion. I think.
I think I'm sitting around either a 9, maybe an 8.75.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you said that. Mine was 8.75 or 8.75 to 9. I'm like, it's one of those two for me. And like when we talked about Darjeeling and like what else was a 9? Did you say?
I think that was
Darjeeling.
The only one that was a 9. Yeah. Okay. And then Fantastic Mr. Fox is a 9.25. And
yeah, that's like absolutely not. But that's the thing. Like with Darjeeling, it's like I can't tell you the performances in that movie are quite as good as the performances we're seeing here in The Prestige. There's a different element, and that's the thing, is that they're just so different. Like there's almost no reason to compare them. So like when it comes to Darjeeling, it's literally just preference that ends up leading me to say that that's better. But critically, I don't know that I can necessarily tell you it's worse. So I think I might end up landing at a 9.
Oh, okay. Wow. If we do that, if it is a 9, the average would be an 87 or an 8.67, which puts it above Isle of Dogs at an 8.58. That's also where Life Aquatic is as well. And then let's see, above Royal Tenenbaums at an 8.33. Trying to see the thing that's closest to it. I think Isle of Dogs is the closest to it, and Life Aquatic at an 8.6. So it's just barely above.
Okay.
Or below Isle of Dogs. That's with an 8.75. So yeah, 8.5 average or an 87. Is really how it'll change between 8.75.
Yeah, which isn't a huge difference, but yeah, it's I'm kind of split there. I'm kind of, it's a damn good movie. I think the performances carry it, like that's more than anything what I am impressed by with this movie. Because visually it is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. But like I said, I don't love the way a lot of his movies look. So it's like it's not a high bar that it had to encompass. It is still very satisfying, and there are some very compelling shots, but there's not a lot where I end up going like that felt thoughtful. Like it felt like you really you really gave weight to that moment with your choice of visual, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. If it is an 8.75, that puts it below Isle of Dogs and Life Aquatic.
Yeah, it's probably a 9 then.
I don't know if I could say that Life Aquatic and Isle of Dogs is better than this.
No, I don't think I can either. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm 100% cool with giving it a 9 and bumping it just above those two. That feels good to me.
Yeah, writing wise, I mean, like,
it's very well written.
I love, like, you're right about the Nolan, like, the lines that let you know where a character is at the time of the movie, and those are always, like, you can see it as a little corny, I guess, but like it's so efficient. Like, it's so, you don't need a bunch of other dialogue. You just need that one line repeated at different times in the movie, and it does incredible. So, like, I think the writing is just what'll hold this, like, what pushes this one up, like the writing, the performances, and then, but yeah, like, visually, I don't think this. I prefer Wes's visuals any day of the week over Christopher Nolan's, but I think it is just a different medium, you know, or I guess the same medium, but different style. And I wouldn't. It'd be really weird if Nolan all of a sudden was like, I'm gonna try really bright, vibrant colors for my next movie, but keep the same dark, gritty tone to it. You know, it'd be be really weird.
No, like, and that's the thing, is that I can never knock it because it fits. It fits what the topics of discussion. You know, like, this movie, again, I love the color palette in this movie, but like, there's no reason for it to have any pastel sort of vibe or anything. No, fuck no. There's no reason for, like, Oppenheimer. There's no fucking way I expect that to be colorful beyond bright fucking orange. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like fire. That's the color palette there.
A movie where he could have done it a little is Inception. I think, like, it's a dream. You're in dreams. You're literally dreaming, and you're inside of someone's dream.
That's a good point. That one probably could have gone with a little bit more of a
like, I mean, it could be anything. Like, why do the dreams have to be you know, like, I guess it's just easier to film in real life. You know, you don't. I don't know. That's a whole different movie that you'd have to make. But
if you're already making a visual effects spectacle, you know, it's got I get it. But you're playing with realism, like. They're playing with realism and altering it. Yeah, like, that's
dreaming, and so I mean, it does make sense.
It does make sense. It does, ultimately. But but yeah, 100%. Like, I think this is a good movie. It's a real good movie, you know, and
I started my Nolan list on Letterboxd, and I put in all the Batmans, and then Inception, Interstellar, and The Prestige.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
I got Prestige at number 3 for mine right now, only below Interstellar and Dark Knight.
I'm tempted to throw it at 4, below Batman Begins.
I can't quite yet. That's the closest one. There's a gap between Dark Knight and The Prestige, and a bigger gap from Interstellar.
Prestige and Batman Begins. It's like they're right there. Yeah. Because I don't want to spoil anything for a couple weeks down the line. We were nicer to Batman Begins.
Okay. I didn't even check that.
The other thing is that we're comparing it to superhero movies, and our superhero rating is different than our director spotlight rating. You know, we got the genre and the adaptation, and I did the math, and even taking those out, it would be nicer than we were to this movie.
Well, super enjoyment wise for a Batman movie like that,
it's gonna go up.
Yeah, it was done very, very well.
We gave them the same critical score though, so, and I feel good about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get about the same out of this as I do The Prestige. Actually, like, it is just kind of like a Wolverine, Batman, it is kind of like a superhero movie a little bit.
Yeah, we gave it the same critical. We were a little bit harsher on it enjoyment-wise, The Prestige, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I mean,
tracks.
a superhero movie can be pretty trash, but I'm going to enjoy it.
I'm going to have fun, like at the very least. And this one, I didn't have a lot of fun, but I was wowed. That's the thing, is that you kind of end up going like, damn. And that does a lot of heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it's shaken out to an 87. That's a damn good movie. That's a good fucking movie.
IMDb gives it an 8.5.
We're a little kinder, which is what we tend to be.
Mm-hmm. Good old tomato meter. 92 audience wise. So 9 for enjoyment wise. That makes sense. And a 7.6 or 76 critically, as we said before, a little higher than Interstellar, which is nuts critically.
Crazy.
I can actually see it though. Like there's a lot going on in Interstellar. Like a whole They made it very real, and he wanted to make sure the science was right. But at a certain point, you just don't need to explain all of that and go down that path, because like people will clock out when they're having to have like a physics lesson during their movie. It's like, but this one, it's a magic show, and it's all a show, and it's like a clone is the most technical, I guess, thing that happens there. But yeah, okay, there we go. The first one in the books for Nolan.
First Nolan down, and we only got a couple to go, and I'm very excited to be embarking upon another filmmaker here. Mm-hmm. And I cannot wait for next week to discuss Dunkirk. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that we're doing, like, because Wes Anderson, I watched all of those multiple times except for Asteroid City prior to coming into it. This one, I'm not doing that at all. Every single one will be one viewing, hop on the podcast and talk about it. So,
it's nice to do that. It is a nice, like, first watch, talk through it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Very nice to do that. So, yeah, that'll be a first watch for the both of us next time. That'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be the first of those, save for Asteroid City. Of course, the movie theater ones will all be first viewings, most likely.
Okay. There we go. I guess we'll be back for Dunkirk.
Yes, indeed. But with that, if you would, head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, all sorts of shit over there for you. It's a bunch of goodies. For $3 a month, you can support this podcast financially, which is huge because it costs me money, and I don't make any off of it unless it is over there. Head to Twitter, follow at PennyBloomPod, follow on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening. And, if you're into the comic book movie side of things, we talked about Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, all these people, Christopher Nolan. This Friday, we continue our comic book movie journey through film with Blade Trinity, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And that was a fun episode to record, and it's a surprising entry into the comic book movies. I enjoyed that one. But yeah, that was a goodie, and I'm excited for you to hear it. We're continuing our Game of Thrones rewatch podcast, Winter is Blooming, on Mondays. This week will bring us season 4, episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very happy that we're getting there with season 4. Season 4 is probably the best season of Game of Thrones, and we're in the thick of it.
Oh yeah,
we are in the thick of it. But yeah, man, happy birthday to my mom, July 5th. Yeah.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mama.
Nice.
But yeah, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you, and we'll see you next week for Dunkirk. Remember, peace, love, and bloom, and abracadabra.